Hi guys, Jarrod here, and I wanted to do just a quick video, sort of like a follow-up to the Sega Trio M1 that I did a little while ago. That was the AC adapter that connected into the Sega Genesis, the 32X, and the Sega CD. And it was from Retro Game Cave. And those guys actually have something else that's really, really interesting, and it's for this bad boy right here. This is the TurboGrafx-16. Now, I'm planning to do a history video about this, I don't know, at some point in the future, but I don't know if you can actually see this in the corner there. It's a platform from NEC. It was a hybrid 8-bit, 16-bit system. It has an 8-bit CPU, but a 16-bit graphics card. So it was significantly nicer than the Sega Master System or the Nintendo Entertainment System, but unfortunately it was really underpowered compared to the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo that would come later on. But what's really interesting about the system is it sold about 2.5 million units, if I'm not mistaken. I couldn't even tell you the year it came out. I think it was 1989, early 1989, or anyways, whatever. The point is, this is the North American version of the hugely successful PC Engine in Japan. Believe it or not, but in Japan, the PC Engine was actually the #2 best-selling system after the Famicom. That's right, it actually beat out not only the Sega Master System, but the Sega Genesis. Eventually, there would be a CD attachment for the PC Engine. Get this, it was released in 1988, if I'm not mistaken. It was either 88 or 89 over there. When it was released here, what you might not know is this back attachment here actually comes off. And you see all those pins in there? I think you can see that. Yeah. All those pins, that's where the attachment would like fit on here. I don't actually own that. And even if I did, it wouldn't work anymore. These things, because they were the first, were extremely susceptible to being, well, broken. A lot of the capacitors inside were faulty and what have you. Anyways, this thing bombed in North America. I mean, like, bombed bad. However, if you're a fan of shmups or shoot-em-ups or whatever you want to call them, or just gaming in general, this platform has a lot of really good games that have never actually been released elsewhere. It also has some of the very best versions of early arcade classics like R-Type and games like that. So I'm going to be starting to cover a lot more TurboGrafx-16 games, but the purpose of this video was actually to show you a very cheap alternative to fix one of the system's biggest problems. And no, unfortunately, I'm not talking about the fact that it only has one controller port. For that, you're going to need a turbo tap. There's nothing you can do. But what I'm talking about is right here. That's the AV out. And unfortunately for this, you only had RF. And when this was released, even back then, that was really annoying. Like the Sega Genesis, like I said, came out right around the same time. And even if it was a year later or whatever, the point is that that had RCA or Composite out. The Nintendo Entertainment System, that original model, had Composite out. You could use, for God's sakes, you could actually use RGB out on the Sega Master System. So this guy was really just outdated right from day one. But there was something they released, and it actually looks sort of like this, that would slide on the back here, okay? And it would go in, use these pins, and allow you to use standard RCA or Composite out. That's the, well, let me just show you. That's basically these, okay? For those that don't know what I'm talking about. So, there's one downside. Because this only sold 2.5 million units across North America, and that's being generous, we don't really know, the turbo, it was called the Turbo Booster. And the Turbo Booster is like ridiculously rare. You can buy this for about 160 bucks on eBay, give or take. The condition, whether it comes with a box, whether it comes with certain games, etc., etc. But just the turbo booster alone can set you back around 200 bucks. And that's all that is to get you the composite out. Now, for those that don't know, the games themselves, a lot of the games had passwords for saving. Okay, this was fixed later on with the CDs because the CD attachments actually had built-in memory where you could save directly to the console itself. However, the Hue cards, or the turbo chips as they were called in North America, they didn't have that ability. So NEC actually released another turbo booster afterwards called the Turbo Booster Plus, which not only allowed the composite out, but also allowed for saving your games too. Okay? Now, you don't need the saving feature. It's just a little handy for about maybe 6 games in the entire library of TurboGrafx-16 games. I mean, a couple of passwords is not the end of the world. So there is a cheap alternative to all of that. Again, you can't save though. That's one thing. You're going to have to use the password systems. But are you really going to want to spend $200 to have the AV out there? That seems, well, composite out, that seems a little overkill, no? Now, I know some of you turbo fans out there are going to say, well, there is another solution. And there is. They combine, NEC combine the TurboGrafx-16, the CD attachment into one unit called the Turbo, wait a sec. It was the Turbo Duo, that's it. There's so many of these things, especially in Japan, that it's like insane. Now, the Turbo Duo is the best because it has the built-in memory. It allows you to play the various types of CDs, and it's region-free for the CDs. Unfortunately, not for the turbo chips or Hue cards. Let's just call them Hue cards because that's what everybody knows. So there's downside. And the downside is they are super faulty. Like, we're talking PlayStation 3, like, well, not 3, PlayStation 2 launch model faulty. Very few people have these that still work today. And if you do have one that still works today, I highly recommend you go to a site like Retro Game Cave and take a look at their capacitor changing program. What they'll do is they'll actually professionally open up your system, change out all the capacitors, and then you'll have a system that odds are will work forever. So that's something you should definitely look into. But forget about that for now. Now we're talking, you've got your TurboGrafx-16. What can you do? Okay? Well, you can go to Retro Game Cave, and these guys, they are working on a better solution right now, but it's my understanding that this couldn't output RGB or red, green, blue, that pure signal, without a modification to the actual motherboard itself. However, they are currently working on an RGB cable that will allow that. Now, I don't know if they're going to put something on the end of it or something to, like some sort of a booster thing, or I don't know. It's just they are working on an RGB cabling solution for the TurboGrafx-16. So I'm very excited to see what comes of that. But for right now, if you're looking for composite out, which was originally what this thing was capable of doing, just with that stupid attachment, and you don't want to break the bank, there's a very great solution. Go to RetroGameCave.com and you can buy this. This is just a little whatever. You see this? Okay. These are basically little slots that we're going to put on here, and you get a lot of cabling, and then you get your lovely composite. So basically this way this works is you take those two pins, those two connectors, and you just go one in there and one in there. And they're super cool. They actually give you this. And that shows you exactly where the different pins go. Now, yeah, I know it's not the prettiest thing, but it costs like, well, I don't know. I'd have to check online, but I think it's something like, let's say it's 15 bucks, 18 bucks, 20 bucks tops, okay? Plus the shipping, of course. Isn't that a lot better? That's like 10 times cheaper than getting the official turbo booster, and that's assuming you can even find one, because these things are like just ridiculously rare. So it's a perfect solution that I think a lot of you guys should certainly check out if you're into the TurboGrafx-16, or if you're looking to just start collecting for the TurboGrafx-16, or you're just curious or whatever. I would highly recommend you go pick up one of these cables. Now, I'm not going to show necessarily how this looks on TV because I don't think it's really necessary. You'll see it in the different reviews that I start to do probably later on next year when I have more time. But I just really wanted to show you this. Now, there's something else that Retro Game Cave does that is really good. You see, there were a lot of, let's say, there were a lot of stupid decisions made with this system. Number one, just having the RF out was really dumb. The other one being the single controller port is kind of ridiculous. I mean, who does that, right? Well, there's another ridiculous thing, and that is with the TurboGrafx-16 controller. It's your standard NES style controller, except you have your turbo buttons here, which was unique for its time. But unfortunately, see this cable? This cable is what, 3 feet, I think? It's super, super, super tiny. And I mean, let's be honest, your odds are you're going to be playing this on a modern day television. And if you're not playing it on a modern day television, that doesn't matter. You're still not going to want to be 3 feet away from your TV, I'm assuming. So they actually sell a 6-foot extension cable. And again, these things, they cost like nothing. And it works beautifully. It works actually perfectly. They also sell a lot of stuff for the Turbo Duo. They sell a lot of conversion stuff because, unfortunately, this output here that connects into your console, they changed the size of this for the Turbo Duo. So if you want to use this controller like as for another controller, you're going to need like a step-down converter for this. And they sell all of that stuff there. They also sell something extremely useful. You see, I was telling you guys that the Turbo Duo, that remodel of all this, was like really faulty, right? Well, in Japan, they sold something called the, what was it? The PC Engine Duo R or something like that, which was basically the final like revision of the Turbo Duo. It never made it out in North America, obviously, because the system tanked here. But that version is almost impossible to kill. And remember, the CDs are region-free, which is great. And you've got your Hue cards, and that system automatically had composite output, right? So if you have this one, you don't have to buy the expensive converters for the Hue cards. Like those go for, my goodness, $200, sometimes even more than that, depending on the condition of your converter. So what's the point of that? It doesn't make any sense to me. Just pick up the Duo R from Japan, pick up one of these guys, get your cables for dirt cheap instead of the turbo booster, and you've got the best of all worlds. And if Retro Game Cave is able to make RGB cables for either this or for the Turbo Duo or the Duo R or whatever, then you're really set. But I'll talk more about that probably next year when it actually comes out or we get a little more information, because I'm really curious to test that bad boy out. So that's Retro Game Cave. That's a really cheap way of getting composite out on the TurboGrafx-16. But I'm not done. There's one more thing. This is basically the games, okay? This is what they look like. It's one of my favorite games on the TurboGrafx-16. Now, normally these would come in like a little box and everything like that, but I don't care about that at all. And for collecting purposes, you might, but I'm not like this huge hardcore video game collector per se. I just like having the jewel boxes so they can go in with all my PlayStation 1 games and everything else. So, anyways, one not problem, but one thing with these games is, and I'm going to have to make it so you don't see. Should have done this beforehand, but whatever. Whenever you buy these games from anyone, okay, usually you get a jewel case like this. This is just a standard jewel case, so if this is cracked or broken or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, the back you're going to want to make sure is in perfect condition because, well, you'll see in a second. When I open it up, that's why. You want to make sure that this is okay. So you want to make sure your clasp is all right. And you see how this is loose? It's not supposed to be loose. There was actually a sleeve that was released on that, and then you get your little instructions here. So let me just take this out. A lot of people never even seen this, but that is a HuCard, or a turbo chip, because this is the North American version. And the information's actually only on that part. The rest is just sort of like a casing. Not many of you guys probably have seen these before, but I actually love this. I thought this was brilliant back in the day. I mean, think of it. You have your NES cartridges, which were massive. You had your Sega Master System cartridges. Again, they were smaller, but they were still huge compared to this. This is I'd say take 2 credit cards, put them together, and that's the size of this. I mean, look at this. That's ridiculous how tiny that is. So, if you're like me and you're anal and you want to have your games in the best possible shape, but you don't really care necessarily about having the box that came with this, because it came in like NES boxes with this just like slid, just like down there. They had usually like a big book and a little piece of styrofoam, something like that. From what I remember, I don't have any. But I don't like this. This bothers me. I don't like that. So, if you want to make them exactly how they were, you need one of these. And this is how the games used to be. And it just protects them. It adds a little bit of extra protection, and when you slide them in here, see, it holds just a little bit better. That's the way you want your TurboGrafx-16 games to be. Even your PC Engine games, you want them to be like that. So, there's a really cool guy. He goes by the name of Seymour Onion, and he sells these. And these are HuCard sleeves. And they cost nothing. It's dirt cheap. And look at this. Look how many you get. Let me put that in the camera. It's crazy. That's enough for like a lifetime, for goodness sakes. I think it's like, what, 25? Because don't forget, if you go on eBay and you do what I do, I purchase a lot of lots and stuff like that. Whenever I actually, buy stuff from eBay, it's not much anymore because eBay is very expensive nowadays. But in a lot, you'll probably get, let's say you buy, 5, 10 games or whatever, odds are you'll have like 50% will have sleeves and the others won't. So something like this is great. This goes for, I think it's 15 or 18 bucks is what he sells these for. All this stuff was supplied to us, so it was great just to show you guys what this is like, what this stuff is all about. So one last little thing I just want to tell you. If you are thinking of getting into the turbo scene, be aware that this is, of all the retro stuff, this is probably the most expensive that you can get into. All of this stuff is not cheap. I mean, just the machines, to get the machines in good working order is going to set you back hundreds. Not like, 50, 60 bucks. No, I don't think so. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of dollars here. If you want the North American turbo chip cards or HuCards, okay, you're going to pay for it. Every single game is like 40, 50, 60 bucks for just an individual game. Some of the rarer games are in the thousands. So just be aware of that. This is one of the most expensive platforms that you can possibly collect for. That said, if you don't want to break the bank, as they say, my suggestion is pick up the PC Engine Duo R and only buy Japanese games. Yes, you're going to miss out on Yi's Book 1 and 2 because you're not going to understand, like, everything's going to be in Japanese. But that is a small price to pay to actually being able to buy just a vast collection of titles for the system without breaking the bank. I mean, games that here would go for, like Air Zonk, for example, that's going to set you back like $200 or $300. Over there, you can pick it up for like, $35, for example. So that's just my last little bit of advice. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed just, some of the little advice I can give you to get the best possible quality for now out of your TurboGrafx-16 without breaking the bank. And if you guys like to see more on the TurboGrafx-16, or just maybe like a history piece, or how to get the best possible picture quality, one of those type of things, by all means, leave a comment. Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And what are your thoughts on the TurboGrafx-16 as a whole, if you have any whatsoever? So thanks for watching, guys. I'll be back soon with another video. Do